What's up, everybody? Welcome to the watch list review. So we're going to go over all the trades today that were signaled and what you could have done with them. Starting things off, Amazon was the first thing signaled right at 8:30. It did start just like us above entry, so it got signaled even though it had a slight pop up in the pre-market. So let's talk about it, right? It did go through, hit this first pivot that we talked about in the video, and then immediately broke off of it, right? You would not have wanted to stay in this play, especially because we're underneath the VWAP. In fact, if you had gotten puts because we're underneath the VWAP, you would have been able to write these down very nicely. However, later in the day, after all the choppiness, and remember it's FOMC day, so there's typically a lot of volume in the morning, followed by straight choppiness until Powell starts talking. And it's not even when Powell starts talking, it's when the video comes out, the transcript comes out. That's when things shoot off in a direction. And then during his talk, we're very choppy, and then we choose a direction. So here's where the video dropped, right? Video went live, things spike up. We immediately break through, hit PT1, hit PT2. You could have been in play, you could have been out of it already as well, taking your two price targets and been good for the day. However, we did end up going sideways for a little bit. This would have been rough for anybody that was in this during that talk. Just the back and forth would have been difficult. But you could have been looking at the fact that we are above the green band of the VWAP. And even with this nasty three that pops up right here and takes out all these pivots, we still don't close below it. So any runners that you had would have popped down a little bit and came right back up. And then you have the 322 actionable signal that hits and takes you all the way to the last price target. Literally from entry at the VWAP, coming back up above the green band, crossing entry again. You could have gotten into it right here and rode it so smoothly all the way to the last price target. So Amazon would have been a banger for you if you were patient during the day and waited until after he was done talking or when his speech actually does begin for the real movement. After that was Apple. Apple was signaled as well. Apple was signaled much later in the day, though. Let's talk about it. It did break entry. This broke entry before Powell started talking. So that's why when it broke, we just went sideways after that. Yes, we're staying above the green band, but this is going to be a lot of choppiness to work through. However, waiting until he talks right over here, this is where the transcript comes out. What do you have? You have an actionable signal above the upper band at entry for the day. So you have three things going in your favor. On top of that, you have time frame continuity as well into the day at this point because it is a 2-up. You can take it from the entry here on the 1 rather than the daily entry, and you would have been able to ride this bad boy up to PT2. If you had cut things, left some runners at break even or in a little bit like maybe -3% or something, and you're still going to end up positive on the play because you made 20% here on your majority of your orders, you could have said, okay, well, I'm staying above the green band. So as long as I'm staying above the upper band and we're not closing beneath it, there's really not a reason for me to cut my runners. And if you had done that, you would have been able to ride that up all the way, right? All the way by just staying above the green band. Even through this choppiness, what happens? We literally we touch it in the last moment of the day and take out that final price target, literally taking out all price targets that I gave to you on the video, taking out all of them. Moving on to the next one was BAC. BAC. Now, this bad boy gapped down a little bit past entry as well in the pre-market. So let's take a look at it. And honestly, not even really. No, 35.85. Entry was 35.85. It technically didn't. It looks like it did. It looks like it did, but this is still 35.85 right here. So price-wise, it didn't actually do anything. Start at entry, immediately take out PT1, and then it was done for the day, right? This is where you could have put on the fib 50, right? The Fib 50 is where, and this is a move from Sarah Strat Sniper. So big shout out to her. If you put on the Fib 50 right in here, once we got up 30%, your alert would have triggered. 50%, you would want to get into the play. Taking a look at things on the 30-minute time frame, we get above the 50% mark. We touch the 70. That's PT1, all done all over again. Hits that price target, comes back down, ends up crossing it again. Maybe you're like, hey, I'm feeling good. I made some good profit on this. Let me put half of the orders that I originally got and made money off of. If I had gotten 10, let me get 5 this time and replay this. Boom, you would have butted back PT1, would have been able to cash out at that final price target, which made it a 3 for the day. So you could have made money off of the signal, and then you could have made money on the Fib 50 on BAC. All right, moving on to the next one is Crowd. Crowd took out all of its price targets as well. This is a great day to trade. Now, when it broke in the morning, keep in mind, today is FOMC, right? Today is FOMC. So Jerome Powell speaking is going to make things before he starts talking. That's why we see the break. We get so close to PT1. We get so close to PT1. Don't hit it. This is why it's important to be moving your stops into profit when you're in profit. This is about a 90-cent difference. You would have been in profit. You would have been in profit nicely, right? You would have had probably 10, 12% between this movement, and you would have been able to move your stops up to a tick above break even, maybe 3%, 4%. Maybe you put a 10% trail stop on there and let it do its thing, and you get stopped out at 1, 2% profit. That's just the first move of the day. Then after FOMC, the big thing that I would be looking for is the bouncing off of the VWAP here, this middle band. Ooh, this played out so crazy. We literally were chopping between this area, waiting for him to come out and talk. Second, we touched the bottom of this VWAP right here, the middle band. What do? Failed 2. What's before it? A 3. So we have a 3-2-2 rev here, which is an actionable signal. This thing immediately hits its entry and runs and just runs. So if you were looking at it on the 5-minute, you would have wanted to use the VWAP to stay above. If you were looking at it on something like the 15, same thing, right? If anything, you get like double confirmation to stay into it here because you get that fail 2. This is my favorite actionable signal, 2-1-2-2 reversal. Boom, to the freaking moon, takes off, ends up taking out all price targets while staying above the upper band the entire time for confirmation to stay in the play. All right, so that was Crowd. Lots of money could have been made on Crowd with that nice $6 movement in there. Ooh-wee. Okay, so Roku broke its entry and took out PT1 and then said sayonara because Powell started talking, right? So let's take a look at it on the 5-minute chart. Bleeding. We break entry. We get a little nervous. We don't cross up above this or past 64. So either of these areas you could have used as your stop loss to keep your stop loss tight. We don't cross those areas. We're way beneath the lower band. We get a 2-1-2 breaking entry again. Maybe this is a confirmation to get back into the play. And boom, we come down. We hit PT1 and we are done. Immediately finished that, came down, tested the entry again, couldn't have the strength to do it, and pushed all the way back up. So that is Roku. Roku is one of those ones where it's very, like, it shows you how important it is to sell majority of your orders at PT1. If you're not selling majority of your orders at PT1, you stand a risk, right? And you have to ask yourself at the end of the day, is that risk worth it? Next is Zoom. Zoom took out PT1 as well. So here's another example of why you want to be selling majority of your contracts out early and letting your runners run. We break entry. We immediately 2-1-2 to the downside. But what do you see? Exactly. We're staying above the upper band. We're wicking off of it. So if I was in calls and I'm seeing these wicks off of it, I'm feeling pretty good about staying into it. Then we go back up, take out PT1. Sometimes PT1 is close, immediately rejected. And that's why I don't mind putting multiple price targets, because what I want to show you is just anywhere that it really has the strength to pivot from, Sometimes those pivots are just 20 cents away. Sometimes they're even closer than that. But as you can see here, boom, we hit it, pivot right off of it. After that, Meta, unfortunately, Meta was signaled because it just gapped up crazy in the pre-market, and I wasn't able to cancel the alert in time. So how could you have played this if you did, right? Well, obviously you want to kind of leave the gap alone, right? But once it breaks entry again, then maybe it's a good time to get into the play. Now, what do we have here for confirmations of this? One, we're rejecting off the bottom band, pushing to the upside. Two, failed two, right? Three, crossing entry again. So if you'd even gotten it here, right, you would have been able to ride this bad boy up the entire way almost, right? All this way early in the morning from just waiting for it to recross entry with a strong actionable signal, which happened here. Doesn't mean you take it at entry. You would want to take it when the actionable signal gets triggered here, right? Here is the confirmation that we're going, right? And then we go. So you could have made some money off of that. To be honest, if I had made that much movement in the beginning of the day, I probably wouldn't have even tried to play it again because this is like freaking almost $5, $6 of movement. You would have been sitting pretty on your contracts if you had taken this. However, if you waited later on, maybe you came back later. What do you see? You see, oh, wow, we had trouble around entry here. We went up and hit price targets again. And oh my days, we're having trouble around entry again. But what else do we see? We're kind of rejecting the bottom band on top of the algorithm of the daily entry. So if this 312 tickles your fancy, you can get into it at the entry when it crosses this one, and then right all over again. Then if you're scalping, you can look at the VWAP and start looking for rejections off of the middle band and pushing it to the upside. We have one rejection here. You could have scalped out, and then a big one right in here. And this one just so happens to be right when the video conference started and went live, bouncing off the VWAP, shooting up the distance, and taking out that final PT before getting exhausted. So that could be how you play Meta as well. After that was Netflix, which also took out every price target that I gave to you guys. And let's talk about it, what you could have done. Starting from the beginning of the day, this thing broke entry, took out PT1, and then took out PT2, and then immediately pivoted off of it. Said bink, and then came right back down. So from here to here, that's a nice $3 movement. You're sitting pretty the first 5 minutes of the day on Netflix. You made some money. Then you see a bunch of choppiness. Maybe you try to get it again, but on an FOMC day, you really probably should try to be waiting until that video goes live. And what do you see? Right off the middle band of the VWAP, we break through, which is also kind of coinciding with where entry is, which we've had trouble getting past. So we're staying above this algorithm, breaking through PT1, PT2, PT3. Then we get exhausted. And then after that, if you're scalping, what are you looking for? Rejections off of the middle band VWAP. All the way straight up after that, took out every price target given, and then a little bit more after that while staying above the upper band. So those are all the plays that were signaled today, but what could you have done with something like SPY on an FOMC day? Well, having some key levels marked out, where you're seeing these purple lines, highs of days, things like that. Right in here was yesterday's high. You're going to mark out the pre-market areas, pre-market high, pre-market low. Don't really want to take anything until we get that break and retest. We have the break, we have the break. We don't ever break below the pre-market low. So puts are not looking like what it's going to be for the day. And then, sure enough, right when the video starts, we cross the middle band VWAP with ferocious pressure, right? We cross this important algorithm here that's marked out of 515.89, which was just another day's high or low. We break the PMH. This is when it's like, hey, maybe it's time to get into the play. And then we immediately go to the freaking moon, straight to test out yesterday's high. And then we reject that high, come back down, immediately do what? One, we test the previous high, right in here because the previous high pushed back off of it. Another scalping opportunity here at 212, in fact. Scalping opportunity here with a 212 to the downside. That would have been your price target, is the previous high of the day. And you could have taken it right back to the upside. This is for scalpers who are just moving really fast. Once we break down and we see it cross this, basically reject the middle band again, start pushing to the upside, especially that it's lining up with the exact area that the middle VWAP, the band is crossing it, you're going to want to get some calls. And then if you had, and you sat above the green band the entire time, so you could have ridden this up really nicely. And then what do you know, but this trend line, uh-oh, look at what we had getting trouble past today. Trend lines are important. All right, gang. So hopefully you made some money today. There was a ton of things that I signaled. I hope that y'all were able to capitalize off of it. There's that purple algorithm was from right in here. You can see where it hit it again right here. That was that high of the day from the other day, and so on. Boom. And now SPY is at all-time highs. Who would have thought? God bless. I hope this video finds you well, and I'll see you soon.